Let me ask you, what do you think is gonna okay, so, Israel's gonna go into Rafah. What do you think is gonna happen after that? Just give me your predictions.
Okay, I don't think Hamas is going anywhere. In fact, I'm suspecting that Hamas's ideology is going to grow because of all of this. But if you destroy their infrastructure, their weaponry, their methodology of getting the weaponry and other infrastructures back in Gaza, especially because after all of this is over, there's going to be a whole bunch of donations and funding coming from Arab countries to rebuild, and the rebuilding process is fantastic for Hamas to be able to get like cement and pipes and funding and anything they need to build to rebuild their military infrastructure. If you manage to completely destroy the infrastructure that they have and the weaponry that they have and the tunnels that they have, and also to make sure that they are not going to be able to rebuild all of that, Hamas will lose its capability to control Gaza. However, the problem Israel is having is that they have no alternative to control Gaza because they cannot maintain control over Gaza themselves, because that would require their military to be present there all the time. It's not going to be policing. They cannot have a couple of soldiers just for policing, because they would just be like sitting ducks. Saudi Arabia and Egypt have shown no desire to be able to come. Nobody wants to control Gaza. Like this is every Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan,
I
UAE. They're all considered just a tumor. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know.
sympathetic to that argument. I agree with you that yeah, no one wants Gaza. But once again, the question is, okay, they go into Rafah. Okay, let's just play this off. Like, okay, Israel invades Rafah. They do what they want to do in Rafah. What happens next, in your opinion? What do you think is going to happen after that?
Okay,
Rafah is the
here's
last
my
city left. Yeah.
here's my honest
Okay.
honest opinion. Okay,
Mhm.
I don't know, and I don't think anybody does right now. Right
But just your
now.
best guess, like just you're asking me to you asked me to take my best guess about
Right.
what Israel's motivation is. You asked me to speculate. I'm asking you to speculate.
Okay, if I again, this is really up in the air. I would think that they're going to take that guy that they have in jail from the PLO, and they're going to bring that guy out and try to get him to maybe to because nobody, the Abbas and everybody there has no popularity in Gaza. The guy that they had jail for all these years, maybe because of his record and also the fact that he's been in Israeli jail, maybe they could do a deal with him that they give control of Gaza. They will, I don't know, that's maybe they will
That,
do
that
that.
would
Again,
be
this is just
that would be best case scenario. That would be awesome if that happened. I really don't think that's going to happen. I
right.
cannot imagine that happening. I think that here's what I predict is going to happen. I think that Rafa is going to happen in a week, in a month, wherever it's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of casualties. There's going to be some outrage in the West. But after that, I don't think the war is going to end. I think Israel is going to do the same thing, similar to what America did in Iraq, which is
Vietnam.
they're going to become an occupying power of that country for decades. I think Israel is going to be in Rafah for, I mean, for in what we're talking, what's the term? It's there's fuck
For
Gaza,
Syria.
in Gaza. Yeah, I'm trying to remember
Okay.
last.
Right.
Israel's going to be in Gaza for a very, very long time because if they go out of Gaza, if they leave Gaza, who's going to take it back? Hamas. You and I think both agree on that. So Israel's going to
Or
have to stay.
something that, or another group that has Hamas like ideology.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
Israel's going to have to
So
stay into Gaza for a very, very long time. That's the
okay, so
unfortunate
here's a
reality.
question. If you were, let's say, here's my question to you, okay? Let's say it's October 8th,
Yeah.
okay? Netanyahu took full responsibility for not protecting the Israeli citizens and resigned, right? And you became the prime minister of Israel, right?
Mhm.
And this is the first day after
Yeah, I understand
the
that.
greatest attack on your
Well, what would
civilians.
I do? Yeah.
What would you do?
Okay, sure. So I'm going to give you a detailed answer. So just bear with me because I'm going to try to uh,
Okay.
do the best possible answer for this hypothetical. I think that I don't think I would do the massive bombing campaign that Israel did in North Gaza. I think they flattened a big part of it to the ground. There do need to be an invasion. They did need to go in there, but I think I would have focused much more strategically. I would have focused on actually clearing out the tunnels. Actually, sorry, wait, let me rephrase that. Before even going into Gaza, what I would have done is I would have cut some kind of a deal with Qatar to get all the top Hamas guys who are hiding there in UAE. And I think after October 7th, Israel had the whole world. They had so much political capital. The whole world was with Israel after October 7th, with the exception of a few fringe Arab countries. So the whole world was with Israel. I think they could have pressured Qatar into giving up the top Hamas guys. I think they could have, not through military, but through economic sanctions. I think the UN would have passed massive economic sanctions, stop buying oil from them until they give up the Hamas guys, and they probably would have done that. So that would be the first thing I would do is I would use all the political and social and economic pressure to get the top guys who were the ones who orchestrated this attack, right? Before I invade. Number two is, yes, the invasion did need to be happen, but it needs to be much more surgical, right? I think the goal should be more of like a police force where you get the bad guys and you remind the good guys, i.e., the innocent civilians, they're better off with you than they are with Hamas, right? So, again, that would involve things like, for example, giving out massive amount of humanitarian aid as you clear block by block. I think these wars are very complex and very bloody, but I think Israel, instead of flattening Gaza City to the ground, they need to clear it block by block, block by block. Again, using the tactic that America do, which is basically hold. Conquer and hold. I forget what the name is, but yeah. So they need to clear block by block. I would not have dropped any large bombs in a densely populated area. I would have allowed massive amounts of humanitarian aid in. I would have, I think, try to work with regional partners who, before they lost all regional support, and see if you can get them involved. I would have seen if maybe Jordan would participate to give Israel more legitimacy. I don't know how likely that is to happen, maybe not, but I would have tried to work more
Jordan
with
is already recognized as Israel, and they have a peace deal.
But imagine if Jordan was more active in the Israeli military campaign. That would give Israel a lot more legitimacy.
Oh yeah, that would not. Jordan is not going to do.
It's a pipe dream. Yeah, maybe that wouldn't happen. But the point I'm saying is I would be much more surgical. I'll be really focused about keeping civilian casualties down, no large-scale bombs, no denying humanitarian aid, no stopping water, no stopping electricity. And yeah, that's probably what I would have done. Again, it's a bloody affair.
Okay.
A lot of people would die, but that would have been a lot
so
better.
let's say you're the prime minister and that's your plan. Okay.
Yeah.
Play with me this hypothetical, even if you don't agree with it. Okay. All your advisors around you, right? And they tell you that you said you're not going to do a massive bombing campaign, right? Mm-hmm. They will tell you that there is no way you could send your soldiers in before doing a massive bombing campaign, right? They will die. Like a lot of them are going to die. And your soldiers, this is irresponsible. You're sending your soldiers in a place that are, every single window is a potential shooter that you can't even tell who's a fighter, who's not a fighter. Every single alley, every time somebody comes from a corner, you don't know they're a civilian or not a civilian until they pull something from their pocket or something and shoot at you, right? Given that there is no way for you to tell who's Hamas and who's a civilian, sending your soldiers in where you have all these tunnels underground, when you have all these windows, all these doors, all these alleys, you're basically sending all these alleys, you're basically sending your soldiers in to die. When you say doing block by block, that doesn't work. The United States also tried that. I think there was I forgot the operations. It was a disaster. You don't have operations. I forgot the place, but you don't usually. You do aerial bombardment before you send your soldiers in, right? Especially when you have tunnels underground. You cannot clear an area
typically only because from behind. Typically, yes, you're partially correct. They typically do a bombing campaign, but the reason they do the bombing campaign is because there's things like tanks and stuff like that. They go after the heavy artillery. Hamas didn't have any of that.
The entire the environment that you're in. Let's just tell me this. If they told you that if you send your soldiers in without flattening an area, you're sending them there to die. And let's say they were telling the truth. Would you not send your soldiers in? Would you send your soldiers in to die? Or would you do the bombardment and then send your soldiers in?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that question. Bear with me. So either way, we just have to get rid of this black and white paradigm. Either way, soldiers are going to die. I agree with you that if we don't flatten Gaza into the ground, more Israeli soldiers would die in the short term. However, long term, I think that it would be less amount of innocent people that would die, because you're not going to piss off every single fucking person living in Gaza, right? So I agree with you short term that the human loss would be higher, but again, soldiers die in every war. We try to do what's best, but then if we take this argument all the way to its logical end, we could just say, well, just why send soldiers at all? Just level Gaza completely to the ground.
My understanding is that without the aerial bombardment, the way that they did it, it's not that just you would just get some slightly higher soldiers are dying. You're basically you might as well just consider them dead. That's how my understanding of it.
But
But
America
if
never
let's say that's not the case,
But America never
let's
did
say
that.
that let's just assume this is the case. Okay, if that's the intelligence that you had, if that's the information that you were going with, right, that either you do the bombardments in the way that Israel has done, or a huge number of your soldiers are going to die in a way that it's going to destroy people's willing to even fight for you. Like the percentage chance of your soldiers dying is so astronomically high that it doesn't even make sense to do this war. So if that was the case, would you do the bombardment and then send your soldiers? Would you send your soldiers there to die in such high numbers, or would you just say like, okay, fuck it, we're not going to go in?
It would really depend
Which
on
one
the
of these two?
details. Well, I would need to know more information. How many soldiers die without the bombardment? How many soldiers die with the bombardment? I mean, this would come
To
down.
the to such high levels that it will make your entire operations ineffective, and you would not be able to go past a few months.
But like, I still need more information than that. Like, how many? Okay, first of all, how many people are going to die with the aerial bombardment? Like, just what's the number? Because people are going to die either way. We need to like figure what is the scale?
Okay, you're talking about Palestinians or your soldiers?
Your soldiers.
Well, I can't. Here's the thing. I can't give you numbers. Just assume that it's to the point that you will not be able to even get close to your military objective. Like you would have to call it quits. It's to that level.
So we're talking like 30,000, 50,000. Like, I still need a little bit more information.
It's here. I think you calculate when it comes to battle, things are calculated based on achieving the military objective, not based on just these numbers like that.
Well, they're also calculated based on the loss, and they're on the alternative, right? It's more than just achieving.
I'm not going to be able to give you exact number. Okay, so you're not going to be able to give me.
I'm happy to engage with it. Just I'm not asking you to give me an exact number that you know as a fact. I'm just asking you in this hypothetical to give me more information. You can just make this up, so I can actually answer your hypothetical.
Let's say 3 times as much as soldiers are dying right now.
Okay, so 3 times as many Israeli soldiers are going to die if we don't flatten North Gaza into the ground. Now, does this apply for all of Gaza or just for Gaza City?
Every area that you want to send your soldiers in, every single area that you want to send your soldiers in requires such a bombardment beforehand.
Okay, so essentially I have 2 options. Either 3 times more Israeli soldiers die, or we flatten all of Gaza into the ground. I think I would try to look for
with the knowledge that Gaza will be rebuilt, and if you don't do this, Gazans will suffer more in the long run.
Well, I think all the people who are going to be killed under the bombs are going to suffer quite significantly as well. I mean, it's like
no, there will be more, because if you don't, the problem is that if you do not remove Hamas from Gaza, this thing, what you just experienced, will happen again and again and again, as they promised. Hamas promised that October 7th was just the beginning, and they were going to do this again and again and again. So when it comes to reducing civilian casualties, both on the Israeli side and the Gazan side, it's true that paying such a high price, like 20,000 or 30,000 people dying, is a high number, but it's lower compared to if you just
said that. You just said that the way things are going, that's going to create more and more Hamas. So how are we solving the problem if this is going to create more Hamas?
No. More Hamas ideology doesn't mean that they're going to have the means to be able to do their act. So you could have that ideology growing, but without the means to be able to commit the atrocities that they have on October 7th.
What are these means?
So you can have more people. You can have more people interested in committing atrocities without the means, because trust me, the means is a huge part of this game, because if Hamas had more means, they would have killed a lot more people.
Sure.
So a huge part of this calculation is not just how much Hamas ideology is spreading; it's also how much equipment.
If you're asking me, should we prevent Hamas from getting weapons? The answer is absolutely yes. Yeah, of course. Keep
Yeah,
Hamas from getting weapons. That's I feel like
and keep them from ruling Gaza. Keep them from ruling Gaza.
I think after October 7th, it was necessary for Israel to go in and get rid of Hamas. The disagreement lies in how they did it. And I think you've agreed
Yeah,
with me
I just
earlier.
don't know if there was any other way.
Well, I mean, I gave you my alternative. I mean, is there
Yeah,
another?
I
I mean,
just don't think that's feasible. I just don't think that's feasible based on what I've been hearing from generals from
okay, but
every direction.
let's talk more specifics. Why is it that when because
But
we
can I
can
also address the other things you said? Because Qatar does not have, I don't know what you're going to do, Qatar, to if they don't want to give you these people, they're not
well,
Qatar's
you can
whole
you can have UN
no
massively
Qatar
sanction them.
no Qatar no UN is not going to UN's whole deal is to let countries have their own autonomy about how they do their politics, right? Like UN will not
We
pressure
push
UN
why we
for
sanctioned the fuck out
UN
of Russia.
UN will not, for the sake of Israel, UN sanctioning Qatar to give up Hamas leaders. That is like La La Land level stuff.
I don't think it is. I don't
Qatar,
think it is at all.
yeah,
the world sanctioned the fuck out of Russia after the invasion. After October 7th, Israel
yeah.
had all the political capital in the
Russia,
world.
yes, Russia challenged another country's border integrity. That is the biggest no-no in UN. That's the whole point of UN. That's like the reason why we
And
have a
Hamas
UN is
committed
to
a
stop
very large
that.
scale terrorist attack. What do you mean?
Yeah, Hamas is not a state, and the people, the leaders of Hamas in Qatar are not even the actual people that decided to do the attack on October 7th. The Hamas has different Hamas, Qatari Hamas, and Gaza Hamas are two different things. I know that ones in Qatar are taking credits for it, but Israel knows that these are completely
There's
two different
Hamas leaders
animals.
living in Qatar. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, they are,
So,
but these are not the Hamas. The Hamas leaders living in Gaza were responsible for the operations. The Hamas leaders living in Qatar were not in charge of these operations. They
okay,
weren't even
let's just
involved.
grant that if we get rid of the
But
leaders
but
living in
but
Gaza, then
here's
couldn't
the
these?
thing: Qatar is a
I
country, right,
understand
that is
that.
independent. In Qatar is the entire. Here's the thing: Western countries wouldn't even want to pressure Qatar to do that because Qatar has
No.
become a hub for
After October
negotiating
7th,
with.
no.
No, yes, let me make this
After
point because this
October
is an
7th,
important point.
after October 7th, Israel had so much political capital.
Yes, but not to this point. Because Qatar is the place where you deal with the Taliban, when you deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran, where you deal with Hamas. If Qatar becomes a place where they give up people that are extremely hated, they will lose that status, the status that United States wants Qatar to have, the status that Saudi Arabia even is using sometimes. Like actually, they're competing with Qatar. Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Qatar are like competing, and Oman are competing for
I
for them.
understand the
So
interregional
yeah.
politics. We're just disagreeing on how likely it is.